how to completely remove fear. Fear is nothing more than a state of mind created, fed, and sustained by your own thoughts. Banish it by taking immediate action, for fear cannot survive where decisiveness lies. Replace doubt with a burning desire, and your mind will find a way. Surround yourself with faith, purpose, and persistence, and fear will vanish like mist in sunlight. Remember what you believe, you become so believe in courage, and you shall become fearless. Here are 7 keynotes. 1. Fear is a product of the mind. Master your thoughts to master fear. 2. Definite purpose dissolves fear. Know what you want and why. 3. Action is the antidote. Inaction feeds fear. 4. Faith and fear cannot coexist. Choose faith daily. 5. Autosuggestion rewires the mind. Repeat bold, fearless affirmations. 6. Surround yourself with courage. Environment shapes belief. 7. Visualize victory. See yourself beyond fear, and it shall obey. 1. My friend, if you truly want to live a life of power, purpose, and peace, there is one enemy you must conquer before all others: fear. Not the kind of fear that comes from real, immediate danger, but the silent, sneaky kind that lives in your thoughts. That fear is a phantom. It's a shadow cast by your own mind, and unless you take charge of it, it will rule you. It will rob you. It will convince you to sit down when you were born to stand up and lead. Now, listen closely. Fear is not real in the way you think it is. It's not a beast hiding in the closet. It's not a monster under the bed. It's not a trap built into life. Fear is an illusion, a trick of the mind. You see, your brain, if left untrained, will cling to survival. It'll scan for danger. It'll invent stories of what might go wrong. And before you know it, you'll hesitate, you'll shrink, you'll doubt. But here's the truth. Fear is just thought, and thoughts can be changed. Thoughts can be replaced. Thoughts can be mastered. So if you want to completely remove fear from your life, you don't fight it head on. You outgrow it, you rewire your mind, you begin to choose thoughts that build your courage instead of destroy it. You were not born afraid. A child doesn't hesitate to try, fall, get back up, and try again. It learns by moving forward, not by sitting still. Fear was taught. It was planted in you by experiences, by people who didn't know any better, by a society that thrives on comfort instead of courage. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. That's your power. Now let me tell you how the mind works. Your subconscious mind, where all your habits and beliefs live, does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. It simply accepts what it is told, especially when it hears it over and over again. So if for years you've told yourself, "I'm not ready, what if I fail, they might judge me," then your mind has taken those thoughts as truth. And guess what it does? It builds your reality to match those thoughts. Fear becomes your operating system. It becomes your silent partner. It follows you into relationships, jobs, dreams, and destroys them from the inside out. But the moment you decide to change those thoughts, everything begins to shift. You start telling your mind something new. I can handle this. I am capable. I will figure it out. At first, your old fears will fight back. They'll whisper lies, they'll bring up the past, they'll try to keep you small, but if you persist, if you keep feeding your mind with belief, discipline, and vision, you will begin to feel the fear dissolve. Not all at once, but steadily, powerfully, permanently, and let me remind you, thoughts are like seeds. Plant a negative one, and you'll grow weeds of doubt and fear. Plant a positive one, and you'll harvest strength and faith. But you must water those seeds every day. You must be intentional. What are you feeding your mind? What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What conversations are you having? Are they helping you grow or keeping you trapped? Fear grows in silence. It grows in confusion. It thrives in the dark corners of the mind where you haven't shined the light of awareness. So bring it out. Call it by name. Write down what you're afraid of. Look at it. Examine it. 9 times out of 10, you'll realize it's either based on a lie, an assumption, or a memory that no longer serves you. Let me give you an example. Imagine a person who's afraid of speaking in public. They tremble at the thought, their hands sweat, their throat closes up. Why? Not because the act of speaking is dangerous, but because somewhere in their past, maybe as a child, they were laughed at, embarrassed, criticized, and that old pain was never healed. It planted a seed of fear, but the moment they realize that the past is not the present, that they are not that same frightened child, they begin to take back control. They speak once, maybe they stammer. They speak again, maybe they improve. And with each step forward, their mind rewrites the story, I can do this. And fear, it crumbles. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be courageous enough to challenge your fear. And you do that by mastering your thoughts. You do that by standing guard at the door of your mind. Every time a fearful thought comes in, question it. Ask, is this true? Or is this just my mind trying to protect me from something that's not actually dangerous? Replace it with a thought that serves you. Do it again and again and again. That's how mental mastery is built, through repetition, through intention, through awareness. Some will tell you to ignore fear, but I say study it, learn from it, because fear is a teacher. It shows you where you've stopped growing. It shows you where you've given up control. And the moment you reclaim that control, when you say no more, you will feel something awaken inside you that you may have forgotten. Power, that's what's waiting on the other side of fear, your real self. The one who's not scared to try, to speak, to create, to live fully. Every successful person you've ever admired felt fear, but they didn't live in it. They moved through it because they understood that the mind is a servant, not a master. And when you command your mind with purpose, clarity, and vision, fear no longer has a seat at the table. Now, I want you to think of the area of your life where fear has been holding you hostage. Is it in love? In your career, in your creativity? Identify it, write it down, then trace it back. Where did that fear come from? Who taught it to you? And now ask, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it worth carrying anymore? The answer will likely be no. So today, make a choice. The choice to no longer be ruled by a state of mind that was never yours to begin with. The choice to master your thoughts so you can master your life. Feed your mind the right ideas. Speak life into yourself. Train your inner world with more discipline than you train your body. Because once the mind is mastered, fear has nowhere to hide. And don't be discouraged if fear doesn't leave immediately. It's like an old tenant who's been living in your house rent, free for years. It won't pack up without a little resistance. But the eviction notice is in your hands. Your thoughts are the law. And with every powerful thought you plant, you make fear weaker and weaker. Fear is not your identity. It is not your destiny. It is not your truth. It is a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. Let it pass. Let the wind of your will carry it away. And when it does, you'll see what was always behind it. Clear skies, calm power, and the fire of a fearless soul ready to build something extraordinary. You are not your fear. You are the one who can remove it. Master your thoughts, and you'll master the illusion. And once you do that, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop you, too. Let me tell you something that will change your life forever if you let it. When you have a clear, definite purpose, fear cannot control you. It might knock, it might whisper, but it cannot take hold. Why? Because purpose gives you focus. It gives you power. It pulls you forward so strongly that fear gets left behind in the dust. I've seen it time and time again. Men and women paralyzed by fear, doubts weighing down their dreams, worries dragging them through the mud. But the moment they discover a deep, burning, unshakable why, something changes. They rise, they move, and the same fear that used to cripple them suddenly doesn't stand a chance. You see, fear feeds on confusion. When you don't know where you're going, every little thing seems like a threat. Every decision becomes a risk. Every move feels dangerous, but when you know exactly what you want, when your heart is set, your eyes are locked, and your spirit is marching forward, fear begins to lose its grip. It can't sway someone who's decided. So let me ask you straight up. Do you know what you want? Have you written it down? Have you burned it into your mind, etched it into your soul, spoken it out loud until it feels like a part of your being? Because if you haven't, then fear will always have room to grow. But if you have even just a glimmer of a purpose, you've already taken the first step toward freedom. There's a fire inside you. Maybe it's been burning quietly, waiting. Maybe it's been smothered by years of fear, failure, or other people's opinions, but it's there, and the moment you decide to fan that flame, to say, "This is what I want, and I will not stop until I have it," you'll feel something shift. The fear won't vanish overnight, no, but it will weaken, it will hesitate, because it knows it's no match for a person with a mission. Now, here's the deal. Purpose isn't something you stumble upon by accident. You build it, you shape it, you create it. It starts with desire, real desire, not shallow wishes, not fleeting wants, but burning hunger, a need so deep it moves you. That's where purpose begins. You take that desire and define it, sharpen it until it becomes a clear target. Not, "I want to be successful." That's too vague. No, you say, "I want to build a business that helps 10 zero people and earns $1 million a year." That's clear, that's definite, that's purpose. And the moment your purpose becomes definite, fear shrinks. You've heard it said, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." I'll go a step further. Where there is no purpose, the mind fills with fear. A man without purpose becomes a slave to circumstance. A woman without direction becomes prey to every passing doubt. But a person with purpose, they walk with power, they speak with conviction, they act with courage even in the face of fear because their eyes are on the outcome. Purpose gives pain meaning. It makes obstacles manageable. It turns failures into lessons and delays into preparation. You stop seeing problems as reasons to quit and start seeing them as steps on the path. Fear tells you this is too hard. Purpose says it's worth it. Fear whispers, "What if you fail?" Purpose replies, "What if I don't try?" Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a ship with no captain, no compass, no map. It drifts aimlessly, tossed by every wave, blown by every wind. That's a person without purpose. Now imagine a ship with a bold captain, a clear destination, and unwavering direction. Even in storms, it sails forward. That's you. Once you commit to a definite purpose, you must become that captain. You must decide where you're going and why, because the truth is you already have the power, you already have the potential. But without purpose, you're just floating. Fear loves that. It thrives in uncertainty, but when you decide, "This is my path," you give fear a deadline. Now, maybe you've been waiting for clarity, for certainty, for the right time. Let me tell you, that waiting is fear in disguise. Purpose isn't handed to you on a silver platter. You choose it, you claim it, and when you do, fear has to step aside. So how do you find your definite purpose? Start by asking yourself the tough questions. What lights you up? What would you do if fear wasn't holding you back? If money wasn't a problem, what would you pursue? What do you want your legacy to be? Write it down, not once, every day, until it becomes part of your identity. Then turn it into a statement, a purpose statement, something you can repeat every morning, every night, until it burns into your brain. I am here to create, to serve, to lead, to build, to rise. Whatever your purpose is, claim it with authority. Make it your battle cry. Let it guide your thoughts, your choices, your habits. Because here's the magic. Once your purpose is definite, your mind begins to align. Your thoughts start filtering out fear and focusing on solutions. Your energy increases, your resilience grows, and fear, which once felt like a mountain, starts to look more like a bump in the road. Purpose does that. It gives you tunnel vision, not blind, not reckless, but focused. You stop getting distracted by what other people think. You stop quitting when it gets hard. You stop doubting your worth. Because you know your direction, and when you know your direction, you stop fearing detours, even when fear shows up. And it will. You'll face it differently. You won't run. You won't freeze. You'll recognize it for what it is, a test. A test to see how serious you are about your purpose, and when you pass that test, you grow stronger. People without purpose chase comfort. People with purpose chase growth. Comfort feels good in the moment, but Growth gives you a life you're proud of. It gives you a story worth telling. It gives you impact, legacy, fulfillment. So today, make a decision. Decide that fear will no longer be your compass. Decide that you will no longer drift. Decide that your life is too valuable to waste on hesitation. Choose purpose, define it, pursue it, speak it, and fear, it won't know what hit it. When your purpose is definite, your actions become bold. Your voice becomes confident. Your steps become steady. You don't second. Guess every move because you know where you're going, and that certainty, that unshakable knowing, is the very thing fear cannot survive. Remember, the world doesn't need more people hiding behind fear. It needs more people stepping up in purpose. Be that person. Be the one who decides. Be the one who walks through fear with your eyes on the prize. You were not born to live small. You were not created to settle. You were made for something greater, and once you know what that is, once your purpose becomes definite, there is no fear strong enough to stop you. 3. Let's speak plainly. Fear will always find a place to live if you give it one, and it doesn't need much room either, just a moment of hesitation, just a second of self-doubt, just one excuse, one pause. One breath of indecision, that's all it takes. Before you know it, fear has set up camp in your mind, whispering lies, building walls, and stealing your courage. But do you know what makes fear pack its bags and run? Action, not perfection, not certainty, not flawless plans or bulletproof strategies, just action, movement, forward motion. Even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if you don't have it all figured out. That's the secret, that's the antidote, because fear thrives in the absence of action, but the moment you move, no matter how unsure you are, you weaken it. Now I want you to hear this deep in your soul. You don't need to feel ready to get started. You just need to start. Let that sink in. Fear will tell you, wait until the timing is right. Wait until you're more confident. Wait until you know more. But here's the thing. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of it. Do you want to kill fear, then act? When I say act, I'm not talking about grand, sweeping gestures. I'm talking about that first wobbly step, that call you've been avoiding, that email you've been putting off, that conversation that makes your stomach churn, that risk you've been calculating over and over in your head until it's turned into a monster. Take the step anyway, move your feet, speak up, raise your hand. Apply, ask, leap, because once you move, something powerful happens. Momentum kicks in, and momentum is fear's worst nightmare. You see, fear knows how to handle a person who's stuck. It knows how to strangle the dreamers, the planners, the someday crowd. But the doers, the ones who act while afraid, fear doesn't know what to do with them. It panics, it stutters, it starts to fade. Action creates clarity. When you move, you learn. When you move, you grow. When you move, you realize that most of the things you were afraid of were just shadows. They looked big in your mind, but in reality, they had no bite. They were bark without teeth, but you'll never know that until you move. Let me be honest with you. Everyone feels fear. Everyone. The people you admire, the ones you think have it all together, the ones walking on stages and building empires and creating movements. They feel fear too. The only difference is they move through it, they act in spite of it. They don't wait for the fear to disappear because they know something you're about to learn. Fear doesn't leave before action, it leaves because of it. Take a moment and reflect. Think back to a time when you were afraid to do something, but you did it anyway. Remember how that felt. Maybe your hands were shaking, maybe your heart was pounding, but you did it. And once it was over, you smiled, you felt proud, you realized, hey, that wasn't as bad as I thought. That's the truth right there. Most fear is exaggerated. It's a trick your mind plays. It paints worst-case scenarios in vivid color. It takes one failure and predicts a lifetime of defeat. It takes one rejection and convinces you you're worthless. But fear isn't a prophet. It's a liar, and action exposes the lie. You've got dreams, don't you? Visions, goals, ideas bursting inside you, but you've also got fear trying to sit in the driver's seat. Let me tell you this, you cannot let fear drive your life. It doesn't deserve the wheel. It's not qualified. It doesn't know the way. Your dreams are the map, your purpose is the engine, and action is the fuel. Fear, it belongs in the trunk, along for the ride, but never in control. But what if I fail? You ask. What if you don't? What if the very thing you're afraid of is the doorway to your next breakthrough? What if the failure isn't the end, but the beginning? Here's what most people miss. Action doesn't guarantee success, but inaction guarantees regret. Which one would you rather live with? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You don't need to have it all figured out to get started. In fact, you can't. Life doesn't work that way. Clarity comes with movement. You step, then you see. You try, then you understand. It's like driving through fog. You can only see a few feet ahead, but that's enough to keep going. Keep going, and you'll get there. So, if you're waiting for all the lights to turn green before you leave the house you'll never leave. Sometimes you've got to move with yellow lights, sometimes even red ones. Don't let fear hold the keys. Let's be real. Fear isn't just in your mind. It lives in your body too. The tight chest, the shaky hands. The dry throat, that's normal, that's human, but those are not signals to stop. They are signals that something matters, that you're stepping into growth, that you're alive. Courage isn't the absence of that feeling. It's the decision to act anyway. So act, start the business, even if you don't know all the steps. Make the call, even if your voice trembles. Submit the application, even if you doubt your qualifications. Speak up, even if your heart races. Do the thing, because every act of courage makes fear a little weaker. Every time you move, you prove to yourself that you're bigger than your fear. And let me tell you something else. Action doesn't just silence fear. It builds confidence, real confidence, not the kind that's faked with bravado or puffed up egos, but the kind that's earned, the kind that says, I did that, I faced it, I moved through it. Confidence is the reward for action. And courage is the price. Here's a truth the world won't always tell you. You can't think your way out of fear. You can't journal your way through it forever. You can't meditate it away completely. You must act. Action is the only language fear doesn't speak. It's the one thing it cannot survive, and if you mess up, so what? That's how you learn. That's how you grow. Nobody who ever did anything great got it right the first time. They failed, they stumbled, but they acted, and that's why they rose. Don't you dare let fear keep you on the sidelines. Don't let it talk you out of your dreams. Don't let it keep you quiet when you have something to say. The world needs your voice, your talent, your fire, but the world will never see it if you keep hiding. So stop hiding, move even if you're unsure, even if you're scared, even if it's only one step. That one step could lead to everything you've ever wanted, because here's the truth, the moment you move, you take back your power, you tell fear you don't own me, you tell your future I'm coming, you tell your past you don't define me, you weren't meant to live timid. You weren't born to shrink, you were made to rise, to expand, to go, and the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is action. So what will you do? Don't wait another year. Another week, another day, the moment is now, not when you feel brave, not when you feel certain, now, because once you move, fear has no place left to hide, and that, my friend, is how you begin to remove fear completely. 4. Train your mind to expect challenges but never defeat. Let's get one thing straight. Life was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be meaningful. You weren't placed here to stroll comfortably through sunshine and roses, untouched by hardship. You were placed here to rise, to grow, to conquer, and the only way to do that is to face challenges head on, expect them, invite them, but never, never expect defeat. Why? Because defeat is a decision. It's not something life hands you, it's something you accept. It only becomes real when you agree to it. Let that truth rattle through your bones. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a commander of your response. The person who walks into the storm with the mindset, "I knew this was coming, and I'm ready for it," is 1,000 times more powerful than the person who cries, "Why is this happening to me?" The storm is the same, but the mindset, worlds apart. See, most people spend their lives wishing for an easy road, no obstacles, no setbacks, no failures, but here's the truth most never tell you: the challenges are the gift. The struggle is the refining fire. The pressure is what forms the diamond. You don't build muscle lifting feathers. You don't build greatness strolling through mediocrity. You build it under weight, under tension, under resistance. So you've got to train your mind daily, deliberately, to expect challenges, not because you're negative, not because you're inviting pain, but because you understand something deeper. Challenges are inevitable, but defeat is optional. You've got to condition your thoughts like a warrior prepares for battle. The warrior doesn't fear the fight. They've rehearsed it. They've imagined it. They've trained for it. They're mentally ready. That's how you need to be with your mind. Train it, strengthen it, arm it with the belief that no matter what comes, you will not fall without rising. Let me tell you something. Life doesn't respect the weak-willed. It doesn't reward the easily shaken. It crowns the resilient. It honors the ones who keep swinging when the odds are stacked, when the money runs low, when the doors slam shut. The ones who say, "I may bend, but I won't break. I may hurt, but I won't quit." When you train your mind to expect challenge, you stop being surprised by it. You stop being paralyzed by it. It becomes just another part of the path. You say, "Ah, there you are, obstacle. I knew you were coming. Let's dance." And with that attitude, fear begins to dissolve. It has no power over a mind that is prepared. See, fear often sneaks in when we're caught off guard, when things go wrong and we're unprepared, when life slaps us and we didn't see it coming. But when you expect resistance, when you train your mind to embrace adversity, fear has no room to grow. You've already neutralized its surprise attack. Think about athletes. Before the big game, they don't just train their bodies. They train their minds. They imagine the crowd noise, the tough opponent, the pressure, the setbacks, and they visualize themselves rising anyway. Why? Because they know the mind is the battlefield. If you win there, you win everywhere. You must become a mental athlete in your own life. Train your thoughts to say, "This is tough, but I've faced worse. I didn't expect it to be easy. I expected it to make me better. I may not win today, but I will not accept defeat." That's the key. Don't fear difficulty. Expect it, and in the same breath, reject defeat. See the difference. Challenges are what life throws at you. Defeat is what you throw at yourself. Challenges come externally. Defeat comes internally. And when you train your mind, you can say, "You may knock me down, but I'm not staying there. You may hurt me, but you won't stop me. You may delay me, but you will not destroy me. There's a fire in you." You feel it, don't you? That quiet strength, that inner pull, that's not by accident. That's the part of you that was born to overcome, but it must be awakened, it must be trained, and it starts with what you feed your mind. You feed it weak thoughts, you get a weak life. You feed it power, grit, purpose, you get transformation. Here's a truth you've got to tattoo on your mind. Pain is part of the process, but suffering is optional. You'll feel pain, no doubt about it. Emotional pain, financial pain, relational pain, physical pain, but suffering, that's when you decide to stay stuck in it. That's when you turn the pain into identity. You don't have to do that. You can rise, you can heal, you can learn and use it as fuel, and the more you train your mind to expect difficulty and reject defeat, the less time you'll spend asking, why is this happening? And more time you'll spend declaring, what's my next move? That's the mindset of champions. That's the mindset of leaders. That's the mindset of warriors. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine two people climbing the same mountain. One complains the whole way up. It's too steep. The rocks hurt my feet. I wasn't expecting this wind. They stop often. They're exhausted. They doubt if they'll make it. The other one, they trained for this, mentally and physically. They knew the rocks would cut, they knew the wind would howl, they expected the challenge, but they also expected victory, and because of that, they keep climbing, same mountain, different outcome. Why? Mindset, you've got to decide who you're going to be on that mountain. Are you going to crumble under the weight of the climb, or are you going to keep stepping, one bloody foot after another, until you reach the top? No one escapes the mountain, no one, but some choose to conquer it, some choose to grow on the way up, some choose to become unbreakable, not because they're stronger than you, but because they trained their minds to be. That's your invitation today, right now, to stop fearing challenges and start embracing them, to stop being shocked when life gets tough, to stop crumbling at the first sign of resistance. You are made of more than fear. You were built for storms. You were designed to bend and not break, but only if you start telling yourself the truth, that life will challenge you, but it doesn't have the right to defeat you, not unless you let it. You want to remove fear, then shift your mindset from "I hope this is easy" to "I'm ready for whatever comes." Train your mind to be the kind that says, "Bring it on. Is this all you've got? I'll find a way through," because the person who expects ease will panic when it's hard. But the one who expected the battle, they remain calm, focused, unshaken, and the best part, when you live with this mindset long enough, when you show up over and over despite the hardship, something amazing happens. You become fearless. Not because fear disappears entirely, but because you've trained your mind to respond to it differently. You don't run, you don't crumble, you rise again and again. And here's the final truth I'll leave you with. You can never fully remove the possibility of challenge from your life. But you can remove the power it has over you. That's real strength. That's how you remove fear. You train your mind to expect difficulty, and you remind your soul that defeat is not in your vocabulary. 5. There is a moment in every man's life when he stands at the edge, not of a cliff, but of a choice, a split second where the world goes silent, time seems to pause, and the heart whispers, "Go." But what does the average man do? He hesitates, he lingers, he second guesses, and in that tiny space between decision and delay, fear grows. That's the breeding ground. That's where doubt sharpens its claws. But hear me, there's a power greater than fear. A power that fear despises. That power is decisive action. See, hesitation is the silent killer of dreams. It's not loud. It doesn't bang on your door or scream in your face. No, it's far more dangerous because it whispers. It tells you to wait a little longer, to think it over one more time, to get everything perfect first, and while you're caught up in that endless cycle of thinking, planning, analyzing, fear slithers in. And before you know it, what once was a golden opportunity is now just another regret. Fear feeds off hesitation like fire feeds off oxygen, but decisive action, that's the extinguisher. That's the sword that cuts hesitation down before fear has a chance to speak. Let's be honest, how many times in your life have you known what to do, but waited too long to do it, and when you finally moved, wasn't the opportunity already gone, or the moment already passed, or worse, was your confidence already cracked? You see, the mind is a magnificent tool, but it can become your master if you allow it to run untrained. Overthinking is a habit born of fear, and hesitation, that's its child, but decisive action, real, committed, bold movement rewires the brain. It says, I trust myself. It says, I may not have all the answers, but I have enough to take the first step. That's the difference between those who live with power and those who live with panic. Now, let me be clear, decisive action doesn't mean reckless action. It's not about diving headfirst without thought. No, it's about making a choice based on what you know now and moving forward with faith, because faith, real faith, is action in the face of uncertainty. And action taken in faith leaves no room for fear to grow. Think of it like this. Picture your mind as a battlefield. Hesitation is the fog that rolls in before the enemy attacks, but decisive action, that's the war cry. That's the charge that pierces through the fog. It clears the field, it lights the way, and once you move, once you act, you realize something profound. It was never as scary as your mind made it seem. Fear is a liar, and hesitation gives it the microphone, but when you move decisively, that microphone gets ripped away. You silence the voices that say, "What if?" and replace them with the only voice that matters, "I will." Look around you. Study the lives of every successful man and woman you admire. You'll find one trait in common. They were people of action, not perfect action, not always the right action, but consistent, courageous, decisive action. They didn't wait for certainty. They moved on conviction, and that conviction was stronger than their fear. You must do the same. Let me take you deeper. Every time you hesitate, you teach your subconscious mind that fear is in charge. That fear is the boss, and your subconscious listens. It records everything, so the more you hesitate, the more your mind defaults to inaction. It builds a habit, an identity, of someone who waits, who wonders, who misses out. But every time you move, every time you make a decision and act on it, you tell your subconscious, "I lead, fear follows me, not the other way around." That builds momentum, and momentum is the enemy of fear. Here's something most people don't realize. The longer you wait to take action, the harder it becomes. Not because the challenge gets bigger, but because your belief gets smaller. Think about that. Hesitation shrinks belief. Action expands it. Even a small step, even one bold move, can shift your entire emotional state. Suddenly, what felt impossible feels manageable. What felt overwhelming feels exciting. Why? Because now you're in motion. And fear can't keep up with a moving target. That's the power of decisive action, and it's not just about the big moments, starting a business, leaving a toxic relationship, taking a leap of faith. It's also about the small daily decisions. Waking up on time, making that difficult call, speaking the truth when it would be easier to stay silent. Those moments count because they're practice. They're your training ground, and every time you act when it's easier to delay, you grow stronger. You're forging a habit of courage, but if you want to truly remove fear from your life, you have to take it one step further. You have to begin replacing hesitation with action automatically. No more waiting for perfect clarity. No more asking 20 people for their opinion. No more pretending you don't know what to do when deep down you do. Trust yourself. The greatest warriors in life aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones who trust their instincts and move. And here's something you must remember. When you delay action, you delay growth. And when you delay growth, you delay destiny. That dream, that vision, that calling you feel inside, it doesn't come alive through thoughts. It doesn't manifest through worry. It becomes real through action. You can think your way into fear, or you can act your way into confidence. That's the choice. Let me give you a practical tool, the 5-second rule. You've got 5 seconds from the moment you feel the urge to act before your brain starts to talk you out of it. You feel the urge to speak up, move in 5 seconds. You want to apply for that opportunity. Move in 5 seconds. You know you should get up and work on your goal. Move in 5 seconds. If you don't, the hesitation sets in. The mind starts whispering later. What if you fail? You're not ready. That voice will always be there. But you don't have to listen. Just move, because what you'll find on the other side of that action is not only progress, but power. You'll discover a version of yourself you didn't know existed, a version who's bold, decisive, confident, not because fear vanished, but because fear was overruled. So let me ask you this. What are you hesitating on right now? What decision are you delaying that you know in your heart you need to make? What action are you avoiding out of fear? That's your edge. That's your next step. And the moment you move toward it, fear will begin to crumble. But don't stop there. Build a lifestyle around decisive action. Make bold movement your default. Rewire your identity from "I think too much" to "I take action fast." Your mind will resist at first. That's okay. You're not here to be comfortable. You're here to rise. And the only way to do that is to move decisively, boldly, now, one step at a time, one decision at a time, one act of courage at a time. The fear won't disappear overnight, but as you act, as you build evidence that you are more than your hesitation, you'll wake up one day and realize fear no longer leads your life, because you've replaced it with motion, with faith, with power, and ultimately with freedom. 6. Face the unknown boldly. There comes a point in every man's life when the road ahead disappears into darkness. No map, no guide, no guarantee, just silence and uncertainty. That's where most people stop. That's where they turn back. But if you truly want to live a life free from fear, really free, you must learn to face the unknown not just with courage, but with boldness, because here's a truth most never realize. Fear does not live in the known. It lives in the unknown, the untraveled path, the unanswered question, the future we haven't touched yet. And what do people fear the most? Not death, not pain, not even failure. They fear the unknown. Why? Because it strips away their illusion of control. But here's the paradox. The most successful, powerful, fulfilled people on this planet, they walk into the unknown daily, not because they have all the answers, but because they've trained themselves to be stronger than their fear of uncertainty. They've built the habit of facing what others avoid. Let me tell you, if you wait until everything is certain, you will wait forever. Certainty is a myth, a fantasy, and those who chase it are forever stuck in place while the world passes them by. You want to grow. You want to achieve. You want to rise, then step into the dark. Walk forward when your knees are shaking. Do it before you're ready. That's how you eliminate fear. Not by hiding from the unknown, but by standing face to face with it and saying, "I'm here, let's go." Understand this. Fear is nothing more than a shadow. It has no power except what you give it. And the unknown, well, it's just a door, one you haven't opened yet, but behind that door, possibilities you've never imagined. You've got to ask yourself, what am I so afraid of? Rejection, failure, embarrassment, or is it simply not knowing what happens next, because that's what paralyzes people? Not danger, not doom, just not knowing. But hear me loud and clear, not knowing is the beginning of becoming. Every break through you've ever dreamed of lives on the other side of "I don't know what happens next." See, playing it safe, that's not safety, that's slow death. the job you hate but won't leave, fear of the unknown, the relationship you've outgrown but won't end, fear of the unknown, the dream that tugs at your soul but you keep on the shelf. Fear of the unknown, it's not comfort you're living in, it's quiet desperation dressed as routine, because deep down your spirit was made to expand, to evolve, to stretch into the great mysteries of life. And you can't do that from inside a box, so you've got two options: stay where it's safe and live half alive, or step into the unknown and find out who you really are. Now, let's talk about what happens when you do this. When you face the unknown boldly, something magical begins to unfold. First, your confidence starts to rise, not because you've conquered the unknown, but because you entered it. Action in the face of mystery gives birth to self-trust. Every bold step into uncertainty sends a message to your subconscious: I've got this, I trust me. That message rewires your brain. Literally, you stop associating uncertainty with danger and start seeing it as possibility. But that only happens if you act. See, fear only grows in stillness. It feeds on the questions you won't answer and the moves you refuse to make. But the moment you move, even just one step into the fog, you shatter the illusion. You find out that the monster wasn't real, that the cliff wasn't there, that the thing you were running from, it couldn't hold you even if it tried. Let me give you an example. Imagine a young man with a dream. He wants to start his own business. He has the passion, he has the talent, but he hesitates. Why? Because he doesn't know what will happen. Will it work? Will he fail? Will he lose money? That uncertainty becomes his prison, and so he waits. Months go by, years, the dream fades, the fire dims, all because he feared the unknown. Now imagine if he had taken the first step, just the first. Maybe he wouldn't have succeeded overnight. Maybe he would have stumbled. But guess what? He would have grown, he would have learned. He would have built strength, knowledge, momentum, because the unknown is only scary when you're standing still. The moment you move, it becomes a teacher, a guide, a gift. This is what I want you to understand. Your life will not change until you become more committed to growth than to comfort. Growth lives in the unknown, comfort lives in the past, and fear. Fear is just the wall between the two, but the wall isn't real, it's paper. Thin, and boldness slices through it like a blade. You've got to say to yourself, I may not know what's coming, but I know who I am. And when you operate from that truth, you become unshakable. Because boldness isn't about being fearless, it's about being faithful. It's about saying, I don't know what's next, but I know I'll handle it. That's the mindset that moves mountains. Let's take it even deeper. There's a part of your brain designed to keep you safe. It's ancient, and when it senses the unknown, it triggers alarms. Stay back, wait, don't go there. But that part of the brain doesn't know the difference between real danger and growth. It thinks speaking up in a meeting is the same as walking into a lion's den. It thinks starting a new project is the same as jumping off a cliff. So it resists, it panics. It says, let's stay right here where it's familiar, where it's predictable. But you're not here to be a prisoner of biology. You're here to lead, to expand, to live fully. So you've got to train your mind to override that programming. How? By voluntarily doing the things that scare you. By making it a habit to walk into the unknown on purpose. You want to remove fear. Start by choosing discomfort every day. Make the call. Share the idea. Try the new path. Say yes to the thing you've never done. Not recklessly, but with courage. Every time you do, you take your power back, and over time, your comfort zone expands. What once terrified you becomes normal, and the unknown, it becomes your playground. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's worth it, because the moment you stop running from the unknown, the game changes. Opportunities you couldn't see before suddenly appear. People start noticing your energy. Your presence, your strength, because there's something magnetic about a person who walks into mystery with open arms. You become a force, you stop waiting for life to happen, and you start creating it. So let me ask you, What's the unknown you've been avoiding? What have you been putting off because you don't have all the answers? What step could you take today that would tell fear, I'm not yours anymore? Take it, even if your voice shakes, even if your knees wobble, even if the path ahead is dark. Walk anyway, because boldness is a muscle, and every time you use it, it grows stronger. One day you'll look back at the mountains you've climbed, the fears you've faced, the unknowns you've embraced, and you'll smile because you'll know the truth. The unknown never had power over you. You were always stronger. You just had to move, and now you will. 7. Turn fear into fuel. Fear is a liar, but it's a powerful one. It whispers in your ear, shakes your knees, grips your chest, and makes you believe you're powerless. That's how it wins. But what if I told you that fear doesn't have to be your enemy? What if I told you that the very thing trying to hold you back is the same thing that can push you forward? Yes, fear is energy. And energy can be redirected. Let's not dance around it. You're going to feel fear. Every time you chase a dream, start something new, speak your truth, or take a step into growth, fear's going to show up. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It means you're alive. It means you're on the edge of becoming more than you've ever been. The question isn't, how do I get rid of fear completely? The question is, what will I do with it? Most people let fear shut them down. But the great ones, the builders, the leaders, the dreamers who move mountains, they turn fear into fuel. They use it. They feed on it. They don't try to escape it. They ride it. That's what I want to teach you today. Because when you understand how to transform fear into forward momentum, you become unstoppable. Let's begin with this fundamental truth. Fear is just a signal, a message. It's your mind saying, pay attention, something's at stake. That's all. The problem, we treat that signal like a stop sign. We freeze, we retreat. We wait for it to disappear before we act, but that's not how it works. You don't wait for the fire to go out. You walk through it. The key to transforming fear into fuel is to move with it, not away from it. Let me paint a picture for you. Think of fear as firewood. On its own, it's dry, stiff, and cold, but put it into a furnace with purpose, discipline, and courage, and suddenly it becomes heat, power, light. Your job is to be the furnace. You're not here to avoid fear. You're here to burn it. When fear says, don't do it, your response should be, watch me. When fear says, you might fail, you say, then I'll fail forward. When fear says, you're not ready, you say, nobody ever is, but I'm going anyway. Because here's the secret. Fear is often a sign you're headed in the right direction. No one feels afraid sitting on the couch doing nothing. No one trembles hiding in their comfort zone. But stand up, speak out, dare to be more. Suddenly fear starts tapping on your shoulder. Good. That means you're playing big. Let's go deeper. There are two kinds of fear, destructive fear and constructive fear. Destructive fear stops you. It's the voice that lies. You can't. You'll lose. You'll look stupid. But constructive fear, that's different. That's the fire in your belly when you're about to step on stage. The pulse pounding before a big decision. It's not stopping you. It's fueling you. It's reminding you this matters. This moment is big. This is the edge where growth begins. So instead of running from that fire, step into it. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it light your eyes. Let it remind you that you're still in the game. Now, I know some of you have been held hostage by fear for years. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough, and I want to speak to that. Those fears, those paralyzing thoughts, they didn't come from nowhere. They were planted. Somewhere along the way, someone told you that you couldn't, that you weren't smart enough, strong enough, capable enough. They handed you a lie, and you've been carrying it ever since. But today, I want you to drop it, because here's what's true, the version of you that's scared. That's not the real you. The real you is buried underneath the fear, buried but not gone. You were born bold, born with a mind capable of creation, a spirit made for expansion, and a heart built to endure storms. Fear didn't make you, so fear doesn't get to define you. Starting today, we're flipping the switch. Every time you feel fear, you ask yourself, how can I use this? Is it fear of public speaking? Good. Turn it into energy, rehearse like never before, and deliver fire. Is it fear of launching a business? Good. Study harder, build smarter, and turn your anxiety into action. Is it fear of change? Good. That means you're evolving. You can leverage fear. Athletes do it. Leaders do it. Soldiers do it. They feel the same butterflies you do, but they train those butterflies to fly in formation. That's what I'm challenging you to do. Feel it, but move anyway. Fear is not the enemy. In fact, fear is your greatest ally when you learn how to harness it. Think about it, the same chemicals released in your body when you're afraid: adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins. Those are the same ones released in moments of victory, excitement, love. It's not the chemistry, it's the context. Fear is raw power. You decide what direction it flows. Let me give you a tool, something practical. When fear rises, instead of saying, I'm afraid, say, I'm excited. Shift the language. It's the same physical response. The same heart rate, the same breath, just a different meaning. You're not afraid of that opportunity. You're excited. You're not nervous about that leap. You're ready. This tiny shift rewires the brain. It turns fear from a wall into a window. Another tool: visualize success, not failure. Most people use their imagination to rehearse disaster. They picture everything going wrong, everything falling apart. But your mind is a movie screen. You get to choose what plays, so choose power. Picture the win, the breakthrough, the applause, the pride. Feed that image daily and watch what happens. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real. So imagine the right things. Here's another method: move your body. Fear lives in stillness. It festers in inactivity, but movement changes state. When you walk, run, breathe deeply, lift, dance, whatever it is, you shake the fear loose. You remind yourself that you're alive, capable, in control, so the next time fear grabs you, get up, move, speak, stretch, interrupt the pattern, then take action. Fear is allergic to momentum. Now, maybe you're thinking, but what if I do fail? Let me tell you something. Failure isn't your enemy either. Stagnation is. Failure is just feedback, it's data, it's refinement. The only real failure is refusing to try. The only real regret is letting fear hold the pen when you were born to write your own story. And don't you dare compare yourself to the bold ones unless you're willing to act like the bold ones, because they feel fear too. They just choose differently. They say, this fear, this pressure, this weight, good. It means I'm doing something that matters. And that mindset is what changes everything. It builds resilience. It builds strength. It builds character. You start to trust yourself, not because you never fall, but because you keep getting up, because you've made fear your fuel. Let me tell you something powerful, something I've seen in every great achiever I've ever studied. They don't wait to be fearless. They use the fear. They don't wait for the perfect plan. They start with what they've got. They don't wait for clarity. They create it through motion, and in the process, they become the kind of person others look at and say, how did they do it? But the truth is, it wasn't magic. It was courage. Daily, deliberate, sometimes trembling courage, and you have that same fire inside you. It may be buried, it may be dormant, but it's there, and when you stop running from fear, when you grab it by the throat and say, let's dance, everything shifts. You rise, you become the version of yourself that fear has been trying to protect you from, but that destiny has been calling you toward. So here's what I want you to remember. Fear isn't the end, fear is the beginning. Of change, of power, of becoming. You don't remove fear by hiding. You burn it, you use it, you turn it into fuel. From now on, let fear mean go. Let fear mean this is it. Let fear mean step forward. Because when you do, when you act despite the shaking voice and the pounding heart, you'll discover something most people never do. That fear was never there to stop you. It was there to start you. Now go, burn, and become everything you were meant to be.